What's up, everyone? We got another NFL offseason recap video. Today we're going to be looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, how their season went last year, what they've done so far in free agency, and what they should be looking for in the draft. The Steelers narrowly missed out on the playoffs, finishing with an 8-8 record and 3-3 in their division. Now, they finished with the worst offensive DVOA, and I think most of it should be attributed to Ben Roethlisberger getting injured early in the season and being out for the rest of the year. This pretty much killed their entire offense, as teams knew they weren't able to throw the ball with Mason Rudolph and Doug Hodges, and Juju Smith-Schuster was also hurt for some parts of the year, which meant they had a starting receiving core of James Washington and Deontay Johnson. That's not going to scare any defense. Their offensive line also took a step back, with guys like Marquise Pouncey missing time due to suspension and injury, and not playing at his high level of play he's normally played at. Ramon Foster is also taking a step back, and that's why I guess he retired this year. James Conner also missed time due to injury. Jalen Samuels was pretty much their starting back for some parts of the year. It was just injuries took their toll on the offense, which led them to finish with the worst offensive DVOA. Now, they finished with the third best defensive DVOA. The main guy there was T.J. Watt, or you could say Minka Fitzpatrick as well. Those two guys, the leaders of that defense. Cam Hayward also, don't forget about him. Stephon Tuitt, Joe Hayden. I mean, these guys all made huge contributions, and at one point, this was the best defense in the NFL. I mean, they just got stops everywhere. They had an intense pass rush with T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree off the edge, Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt on the inside, and Javon Hargrave, and then Joe Hayden and Steven Nelson, who revitalized his career with the Steelers. So all around a terrific defensive performance by the Steelers. Now, the Steelers didn't make any big moves before free agency started. Now, the big move that the Steelers made, franchise tagging Bud Dupree, this means they're going to pay him about $15 million a year. He had a good year last year in terms of how many sacks he got in his contract year, of course. But this is one of the classic cases of, do you chase after sack totals, right? Bud Dupree, double-digit sack totals. Him and T.J. Watt just menaces off the edge. But outside of that, I mean, Dupree didn't register many pressures outside of the sacks he had. So if you're talking about consistency, every time Bud Dupree got to the quarterback, it was pretty much a sack. He wasn't generating pressure on a consistent basis, which is why I think this franchise tag was bad for the Steelers. They should have let him walk and possibly sign an edge rusher in free agency or look to get one in the draft. I think they overpaid for Dupree. Not a great run defender also. I'm also not a big fan of that deal. Eric Ebron, 2 years, $12 million contract. Love this deal. Ebron, who had a great year 2 years ago with Andrew Luck, had a down year this past year with Brian Hoyer and Jacoby Brissett, as well as missing time due to injury. But he's joining a Steelers team that hasn't had a good tight end since Heath Miller, which was a long time ago. Derek Watt, he's replacing Roosevelt Nix. Steven Wisniewski, love this signing. I thought he was one of the main cogs for the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl, actually filling in for Andrew Wiley at left guard for the Chiefs. So big signing there, should help their offensive line tremendously. And then they traded a 7th-round pick this year and a 5th-round pick next year to the Ravens for Chris Wormley. This is just adding some depth behind T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree off the edge. Some of the players I left the Steelers in the offseason, tight end Nick Vannett went to the Broncos. Fullback Roosevelt Nix went to the Colts. Obviously, they're replacing him on the Steelers with Derek Watt. Center B.J. Finney, pretty much like a utility type offensive lineman that could play anywhere in the interior. He went to the Seahawks. The big loss for them, Javon Hargrave going to the Eagles. Hargrave was one of those pocket-pushing, run-stuffing interior D linemen. So that's a big loss for the Steelers, and we'll see how Stephon Tuitt will be able to step up in a full-time starting role with the Steelers. Inside linebacker Tyler Makitovich went to the Bills. Sean Davis went to the Redskins. Ramon Foster retired. So like I said, they're replacing Ramon Foster with Wisniewski. And if you think about it, I mean, at one point, the Steelers had one of the best offensive lines in the league. Alejandro Villanueva, Marquise Pouncey, Ramon Foster, Marcus Gilbert. I mean, that was a top-tier offensive line with the Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown on the team. Now it's all kind of just, declining with age, I guess. Releasing Mark Barron, they signed him last year, and when they signed him last year, I thought it was a good deal for them. I always love those hybrid safety linebacker guys because they can guard tight ends and running backs, and they can tackle pretty well, but I guess he just wasn't a fit in the Steelers system. Now on to the draft. Well, the Steelers don't have a first-round pick thanks to the Minka Fitzpatrick trade, but in my opinion, the biggest need for them is wide receiver. Last year when Antonio Brown left the Steelers, I thought Juju wasn't going to excel as the number one. He had excelled as a sidekick to Antonio Brown, putting up a monster season in his sophomore campaign. But like I said, I didn't think he was ready to handle being a number one receiver and getting shadow coverage of the other team's best corner. And I was right. I mean, he was injured for most of the year, and when he did play, yeah, he was playing with some bad quarterbacks, but I mean, his numbers were pretty low for a guy that was expected to be a top 10 receiver. So Deontay Johnson, I mean, he has great potential, speed, height, big playability. But I mean, how much can you rely on big playability in the NFL? You need guys that can catch the ball. And I don't think James Washington's proven that his past 2 years. Deontay Johnson, we'll see if he steps up. But if they can really get a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. to just work in the red zone, or Brandon Ayuk or Denzel Mims, some guy like that, I think it'll really help their offense. Second big question is Ben Roethlisberger. How much time does he have? Right? We've seen, in my opinion, the greatest draft class in terms of quarterbacks in the past 20 years. Two of the quarterbacks, Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, have moved on. Eli's retired. Phillip pretty much has 1 or 2 more years left on his deal. How much is Ben Roethlisberger going to play? Mason Rudolph obviously isn't the answer. Duck Hodges isn't the answer. So maybe you look to draft one in round 2. Maybe you get someone like Jake Fromm, Jacob Eason, Jalen Hurts, a project type quarterback that you know can sit behind Roethlisberger for 1 year, 2 years, and then maybe he develops into a starter. Getting some more offensive linemen to just beef up their offensive line. Pouncey's not getting any younger. Villanueva's not getting any younger. They just need some more bodies up front. Finally, getting a linebacker to complement a stud rookie linebacker, Devin Bush, is important. Like I said, they released Mark Barron, right? They need another guy that's going to be able to fill that position and add some depth, especially since the Steelers haven't had good depth at the linebacking position since Ryan Shazier got hurt. That's all for this NFL offseason recap video on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't forget to like, comment on what you think the Steelers record will be in 2020 and who you think they should take in the draft, and subscribe.